Okay, how's it all going, everyone? Good to see you. Today we've got a special guest coming from San Francisco, the Bay Area. So let's welcome Chris Fong to come and chat with us today about vibe coding and the fun stuff that we have with it.
Thank you, Shane. Not only for introducing me, but organizing this whole thing. So, a little background. What happened was I'm actually here on vacation, and since I was here for a week, well, 5 days, I figured why don't I give this talk? And I gave this talk in San Francisco about a month ago or something at a meetup. And so since I have everything prepackaged, I said why not? Because I've heard about there is this community in Chiang Mai. So I said maybe I can link up with you guys and maybe share some experience as well. So I somehow through some very long-winded connections, I got connected with Shane, and he had really helped organize this. So really appreciative of that. So if you guys didn't catch it, the QR code actually links to my slide deck, which has a lot of links. I highly recommend that you get it because I will be moving a lot from the slide deck to the articles and the links and so on and so forth. So without further ado, I will. And then if you don't understand fully everything, it's fine. Feel free to reach out to me either on LinkedIn or after the talk to ask questions, and I'll try to point you to the necessary resources. Okay? Can you guys hear me if I speak this way? Yeah. This is.
Yeah, it's going to be better with the mic.
Okay, this is who I am. So basically, I've been in engineering leadership for almost 2 decades, and spanning all these blah 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 blah. And my superpower is actually stabilizing release quality and operations quality of most sites on mobile. I've experience with web and mobile. So I've been leading and building quality teams from these blah blah blah. Couple of Series B and Series C startups. I also am a startup advisor, mostly focused on software quality tools. And I'm a Medium author. I write a bunch of these Medium articles. You can find that here. Coding since 14. But I've only started vibe coding and AI-assisted coding this year, in May, when I got laid off, unfortunately. So, and it was as part of this AI Makerspace bootcamp. If you don't know what it is, it's a 10-week program where you learn how to build LLM apps with a UI and stuff like that. So if you're interested, I provided the link in there. So without further ado, so what we'll explore today, so first I'll introduce what vibe coding and context engineering is, and then I'll relate the journey from building a web app to building a mock server, API tests, monitoring, front-end end-to-end tests. So my background is in software quality engineering, which is, we write a lot of tests to make sure that release quality is there for your software systems. So that's the reason why I focused on these, and it was something that not a whole lot of people were writing about, so I decided to work on that. And then I'll share like some of the key lessons, strengths and weaknesses of using AI-assisted coding, what I learned, and then also some reflections of like how these things are going to progress. AI assisted development is moving very fast. There are a lot of new tools like I think Lovable and Vercel, where you can build entire systems using that. But I'm mostly focusing on Cursor and Claude. Those were the main tools that I used. Now, I don't consider myself an expert, but I'm just sharing my experience with AI-assisted coding, and I hope everybody learns something. Cool. So some key concepts of in AI-assisted development. So first is vibe coding. So for those of you who do not know, vibe coding is a very intuitive approach to writing code, relying on the developer's gut feeling. So it was actually coined. It came out early this year. In fact, it came out on X by Andre Karpathy. And if you do not know who Andre Karpathy is, he is this guy. So he was director of AI at Tesla and was also a founding member of OpenAI. And so when he tweets, people listen, I guess. So he did tweet about this, and that became part of the whole AI assisted coding lexicon. As for context engineering, so context engineering is a bit more deliberate, where you craft the input, where you make sure that you have everything that the AI needs to build whatever it needs to build. So you have to craft everything and then send it over to the AI. And this was sort of coined by LangChain. Because they were talking about agents, right? So agents, you basically create the context and then send it over to them to get the agent to build to do whatever you want it to do. So similarly to you can consider the AI assisted coding agent as an agent, and then you are the one that marshals all the necessary information and send it over to it to produce what you want it to produce. So that's essentially context engineering. Any questions so far? Good. And in the course of this talk, I will show some examples of both, so it gives you a flavor of what it is. So the first thing that I had to do, because in order to create a pipeline, I had to build a simple app. Otherwise, what are you going to pipeline with, right? So so I decided to build a simple bookstore web app from scratch because there was an existing API that was available. So I said, hey, why don't I just try building it? So before I go into like what I did to build it, I will show you how it looks like. It's very, very simple. So basically you have a bookstore, and then you're able to filter between fiction and non-fiction, and then you can order a book. So say, and when you go to orders, you will see that it shows up. So that's basically what it does. It's very, very simple, but it has a lot of the main components of a web app. So that's what I did. And I detail my experiences of building this in a Medium article. So the link to this is in my slides. So long story short, so I didn't know Next.js, honestly, but I figured, after going through the AI Makerspace challenge, coding challenge, I learned how to do that. And so I say, okay, let's try doing this, try building it. But at the time, I was also trying to use GitHub Copilot as well. So I said, why don't I compare between Cursor and Copilot to see how it goes? So long story short, I asked Cursor to review the Postman collection of the API. So there was an API. And then I used it to generate a Swagger YAML, and then make the Swagger YAML, the Swagger viewable via a web page, and then update the README accordingly. So then I created a whole prompt. Okay, so the prompt was kind of detailed. So this is a bit more like context engineering than vibe coding. So I constructed the whole. So I say, okay, the main page has a metaphor of a single drop-down list, blah blah blah. And you can read the whole details. But what I did was also to map the API calls to the UI as well. So that was a very detailed set of instructions. And so it built the thing. So it generated the code, and then it also adjusted for dark mode automatically, and so on and so forth. Now, there were some issues when I built this. For example, for those of you who know cores, that was an issue. We didn't know that had to be resolved, and then there were some token issues. Like because the API required a bearer token, so that was also not. I had to tell it, hey, there's this thing. I said, oh yeah, okay. You are absolutely right, right? That's what they always say with AI. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then. But what I found was that Cursor is definitely better than Copilot. I think most of you already realized that because for me, when I tried to debug the cause issue, Copilot just told me, oh, try this again. I'm like, hello, it's not working. But Cursor was smart enough to say, hey, go look at the developer console, tell me what you see, and then it was able to help me troubleshoot the thing. So the lesson I learned then was, prompt. The more specific the prompt you generate, the more, the closer to what you want you will get from the AI. So that was a very key learning from me. So when I reflect on what worked and what didn't, so rapid prototyping was you really help very easily do it. AI generated boilerplate saved a lot of hours, and there was an immediate feedback loop. But I will not trust to deploy this in production because there's no security review. I don't know what else will happen, and like cross-site scripting and stuff like that, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that area, so but I foresee that eventually there will be tools that will do the scans for us that will help us in that area. Edge cases require some manual oversight and so on, and then requires while you're coding, it requires manual validation as well. So then I was like, okay, now that I have a web app, can I build the full pipeline? Any questions so far before I move in? Yes.
I'm just curious which model you're using because
Good question. I think at that time it was OpenAI 4 because it was in May of this year, so it wasn't 5 yet. Yes.
Can you please repeat the question because we don't hear?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the question was, which model did I use with Cursor? And the answer was 4 at that time. Yeah. And was there a reason for that question? Is it that 5 is better or something?
Just curious.
Oh, okay.
Very different results using different models.
Right. Cool. Was that a question or was that?
Yeah, you answered the question.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? If not, I'll move on. So please feel free to stop if you have questions, since it's not that big an audience. Cool. So I'm going to share the various steps that I took to build. So I mentioned it's an incomplete CI/CD pipeline. Why? Because I have not completed building everything. I've only managed to build vibe code the API test, the front end test, and as part of the building the front end test, I also built mocks, and then also there are some synthetic monitoring tests there as well. So like the SonarQube part, I'm still yet to work on it, as well as the The synthetic monitoring tests are API level, not front-end level. So that's the reason why it's yellow. So that's where I am with regards to building the CI/CD pipeline. Okay. So the next part was vibe coding the mock server. So this one is a bit more like vibe coding because what I did was, and it's all documented in this article, which I've linked from the slide deck. So first thing I did was, do you know how to build a mock server? So I asked I asked Cursor, do you know how to build a mock server based on a given API spec? And then it's recommended using Prism, blah blah blah. And then so I used the Swagger YAML that was already created, and then found that it was returning null responses. Then I asked again, like, how can I configure Prism to return custom responses? And so it created a folder of canned responses, but at the end it was like, it's not very good. And so after bouncing a few times, we figured, okay, we just embed the mock responses directly to the Swagger YAML. And then it seemed like Prism was returning random data, so again I had to get it to fix the responses, because you want to, when you're testing a front end with a mock server, you want deterministic responses so that you are able to test it deterministically, test your UI deterministically. And then next was to get it to build API sanity tests. Why? Because a lot of times when we are dealing with external APIs, we do not know if they will continue to fulfill the contract. And so it's good to run those tests on a regular basis to make sure that your understanding of the contract or your assumptions on the contract are still valid. So that's what I did. So the prompt was, do you know how to build API tests using Playwright? And it did. It generated some stuff, but then half of it didn't work. So what I had to do was to figure out what was going on. And after digging around, I realized that it was actually, the tests were actually hitting the mock server instead of the real API, which was kind of a facepalm for me. So I fixed it by updating the base URL, and then I found some endpoints failed because, again, bearer token, duh. So I prompted Cursor to create a .env with the API access token and so on and so forth. I mean, standard stuff that most developers will know about. And then, Cursor embedded the token directly in the code. That's a no-no, okay? So I say, okay, that's not good. Can you please make the API access token variable stored in an environment folder, blah, 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 and make sure that the .env is in the .gitignore to make sure that it doesn't get updated and your token gets stolen and blah, blah, blah. So these are some of the things, right, that you have to be very careful of when you're working with the AI tool. Then I took a deeper look into the API test, and I found that it was all a happy path test, right? So it's like, okay, so basically what I say, okay, can you add a check that the ID is non-negative? So this was a negative test case, and then I think this was an edge case. So things like that, the AI doesn't necessarily know what to do. But then there are tools that have been built on top of it, so that you can actually get better test coverage as well. So long story short, both tasks were fairly straightforward, but they were not flawless. So you need to check that it's working. AI sometimes makes incorrect assumptions, like defaulting to the mock server instead of the actual endpoint. Included secrets in the source code. Default test coverage was minimal. So those were some of the lessons that I learned from this whole experience. So again, so this is basically what a mock server is used for, and the link to the article is here. And I've already covered the initial problems like hard-coded secrets, weak test coverage, no negative test cases, and all that. So there is some level of human refinement that's needed for you to effectively use the AI tool. Any questions so far? Anything that's befuddling you that you're dying to ask? Or is this too easy? Too simple? Cool. Okay, I'll move on. Okay, so next I wanted to add synthetic monitoring as well. And if you're using Playwright to write your front-end or API tests, then the tool that is probably the best for that would be Checkly. Why? Because Checkly is Playwright native, and so there are other synthetic monitoring tools like Datadog has one, and I think New Relic has one. But the thing is, the problem with that is that they have a very proprietary language for writing your synthetic monitoring tools, your synthetic monitors. What I like about Playwright is you can actually use your existing Playwright tests to convert that into a synthetic monitor. So who here knows what synthetic monitoring is? You don't. Okay. So long story short, synthetic monitors mimic critical user functions in production. So you run that on a regular basis, like every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes or so. So if let's say you have a e-commerce site, right? You want to simulate a user checkout maybe every 5 minutes because there could be something at the back with Stripe or whatever fun API that you're dealing with that goes down, and then you don't know why suddenly you have all your e-commerce transactions are failing. So you want to constantly monitor so that you know when something goes down, then you can actually react to it. So that's what synthetic monitoring tools are, and they usually connect up to alerting tools like PagerDuty. So you can have a rotation where somebody gets alerted when something like that goes down. So, like I mentioned, tools like Datadog and New Relic, they have a synthetic monitoring feature where you are able to write these tests. But the problem is then you can't reuse your existing Playwright tests to convert them to synthetic monitors. But Playwright does. Okay, so I was trying to set it up, and it's all documented here. So yes, so one little trick with Cursor is that you can actually get it to ingest the documentation before actually using it. So if you click on this link, there's instructions on how to set up Cursor to read the documentation. So that's what I did. So I got it to ingest the Checkly documentation, and then I started, okay, create a folder. I want to create synthetic monitoring tests using Checkly, and Cursor will say, okay, yes, do this, and say, okay, accept. And then things started going south because I got some errors, and then Cursor was like, okay, can you try this? Can you try that? Can you try this? Can you try that? All of it didn't work. It was really, really frustrating. And if you're an experienced dev, you know that when you hit this kind of a wall, what do? You go get coffee, or you go and do yoga, or you go and go for a run or something. Basically get your mind off it, because what you need to do is to take a step back, okay? So what will happen is your subconscious will then do its job to replay what happened, and this is something that AI can't really help you with. You have to know how to get your mind into the right state. And when I returned to this task again, I was like, hey, wait, hold on. I think I need a second opinion. So I said, okay, Claude. So instead of using OpenAI, right? Okay, Claude, I gave it like what was happening, and then it's like through the conversation, it was like, hey, hold on. I don't remember seeing. I didn't remember seeing this when it was installing. Huh? Wait, hold on. So I asked Cursor to review that page again, and guess what it said? You are absolutely right, which is the most frustrating thing, right, when you're dealing with AI-assisted coding, right? And so then that was the breakthrough, and then it figured out blah blah blah, and then I got it to deploy. Now I'm good friends with the CEO of Checkly, and so I gave him feedback on this, and they have actually done some really good work, and I've provided a link to this. So they are actually I think they built a Checkly MCP, so you can actually connect the MCP to your cursor, so that you get the latest documentation and all that. And this YouTube video actually shows you how they use Claude Code to set up Checkly and build the playwright test, or converted the existing playwright test over to Checkly as well. So they have taken that feedback and run with it. So it's fantastic. And so long story short is then I was able to there were some errors which I was able to get Cursor to fix. But this was great exercise because, and it's all summarized here. So there were some setup challenges. So AI has this documentation dependency, but with increasingly with MCP, that's going away. But like the human intuition thing, like knowing that okay, it's time to get coffee, it's time to go for a run, it's time to go for a swim. That AI can't help you, right? At least not now. So it's one of those things that humans still do better. We actually help the AI to get past the obstacles. So so one key insight is AI accelerates the straightforward paths, but if you're an experienced engineer, you can actually navigate through the complex and undocumented challenges. Okay, so after that, I was like, okay, it's time for me to start building UI tests. Since I already had the mock front end, and I can seamlessly transition to a real back end. So that's what I did, and it's all over here. So okay, so the first part was to switch to the mock server and then build the mock server front end test. So again, in this case, I gave it very detailed instructions. So hit the main page, select non-fiction, blah blah blah, click on the view details button, blah blah. So and then it proceeded to generate the playwright code, but then as you can see, it's all failing. So then I said, okay, I asked, can you investigate? Wasn't very good. It tried, and it was asking some not very intelligent questions, but it was trying. So then I say, okay, let's check it test by test. Okay. So for the test, I saw what was going wrong, and I said, okay, so hey, for this test, this is failing. And the cursor reviewed. They say, oh yeah, I made some code changes. They say, can you apply the same reasoning to the rest of this? Bad mistake. No, it's not that smart. So it said, yes, I'll update all, but it didn't work. So I had to go test by test, and then I looked at it deeply again and was like, hey, hold on. It was using XPath instead of using the data test ID, which I specifically requested when I built the UI, because I'm a test engineer, so I would expect devs to provide data test IDs. So I did put that into the UI, but then it didn't detect that. So I was like, oh, okay, that's not very smart. But okay, okay, I see a problem. You're using XPath to identify UI elements. That could cause flaky tests as the UI gets changed. Are you familiar using data test ID? You are absolutely right. Again. And so, yeah, it acknowledged it and it made changes to include data test ID. So there were some improvements, but there were still test failures. And so again, troubleshoot one by one and also review the code. As you can see, it's very, very painful. Everyone, I had to do it step by step, but finally I got it to work. And then I went on to build the end-to-end pre-prod tests as well. Now the key difference between building pre-prod tests and a mocked UI test is that you're dealing with state. So things change, your database or your backend changes, right? So you need to put in some stuff to make it address the whole state issue. So for example of state, right? You go and put things into your e-commerce cart and then you do a checkout. So your database actually changes, right? Because your inventory changes, you are making a purchase and so on. So that is state. But when you're doing a mocked UI, you're only testing the UI side of things, not the entire end-to-end flow. But this end-to-end tests are very important because you want to make sure that everything is working before you release to production. So that's what I did. So long story short is, so there was authentication, there is base URL changes, data handling, error handling, and so on and so forth. But long story short is that it did not know how to deal with the state, the fact that we're dealing with state changes, okay? So I had to instruct it, for example, to, yes, so first I gave the whole thing, and then dealing with state, I had to make sure that we will use customer name with a timestamp so that every single transaction is unique. Because otherwise, the same user will keep purchasing the same thing again and again, and then the test will fail. Okay, so this was the experience. So the lessons learned were that first of all, if you use XPath, you'll lead to very flaky tests. So we replaced it with our data test ID approach, and then that improved the test reliability. And then when it comes to end-to-end scenarios, things like token expiry and data variability are very important. Like what I described, you have, because you're dealing with state, you have to make sure you accommodate for that. Now, if you look at this image over here, I intentionally kept, so this whole slide deck is generated by AI. Now I'll touch on how that was done. But what you will notice is that it looks right? But if you look at the words, it's all garbage, right? And that's like AI coding, It looks correct, and then the AI will tell you, you're absolutely right. Yes, that is brilliant. But it's not necessarily working correctly. Right? So you have to validate it, you have to check it, make sure that things are working fine. And that's the reason why I kept this image over here. Okay, so some key takeaways: AI accelerates, not replaces. The skill of test engineering is still important. Why? Because all these things like test strategy, coverage analysis, maintainability are all still critical. But partial automation is feasible. You can vibe code, at least to some extent. Maybe it's not 100%, maybe it's 60%. But hey, 60%. You ask any test engineer, right? If your developers produce 60% of your tests, they're like, thank God, they'll be very, very happy. Trust me. So it's a partnership. It's a partnership between AI and the human to get the right software for you. So some of the lessons that I learned, like tools that made a difference. So Cursor was definitely better than Copilot. And then there's this Playwright with Checklist, a very powerful combination. Now, there are some, because this whole thing is moving pretty fast. There's a lot of startups, I think maybe here as well, but in the Bay Area, because I do advise a few, I'm aware of some of the stuff that people are building. So I'll cover these few tools very briefly. So, and I've linked them to articles as well, so you can take a look. But I'll show you like a few. So like for example, the end-to-end test that I had built. Okay, you can actually using this. So this is an open source tool called Ether, and you just need to specify. Go to the URL on the main page, click on this, blah blah blah. And then I just ran the tool. So it basically uses the Playwright MCP to run the test in the background. Okay, what I'll do is I'll run this and I'll run this. Okay. So you'll see a lot of stuff, but long story short, it's talking to the Playwright MCP. So it's figuring out what it needs to do. So you saw the instructions, right? It's very, very simple instructions. And then, what happens? He fell asleep. I'm falling asleep. Eventually, it will come out of slumbering. There you go. So, it got back the response from the Playwright MCP server. And then, yep, it did all that and basically said it's working. So what this is not good for is that it doesn't like save all the screenshots and all that kind of stuff. But if you just want something to run on your UI very quickly and very easily create a simple test, this is great and it's free. The next tool is Autify Muon, which is a little more advanced. Is this more? Yeah, this is more. Okay, let me see. Okay. So load this page, blah blah blah, and suggest tests for the page. So it does that, and then it pops up the browser. It's my simple books test again. So you think, then it comes up with suggestions on what to do. And it's like, okay, but you're missing some other tests. Can you also, what is this, include some other tests? Test flow for clicking the details of non-fiction book and then proceed to order it. Then, I need to type faster, man. Check the order page. Order is showing up. Okay, then it does that. Okay, so it runs it. Okay, it got it working. Now, yes, please create the Playwright test. Now, why is this important? How many of you have worked with the AI-assisted coding and the AI just totally revamps your code? It's done it, right? And it's very, very frustrating. You have no idea that happened. So if you have tests, then what happens is you run the test and it tells you, yeah, it's not working as it used to work. So saving a copy of your tests is actually very, very useful. So So it saves it, I think. Yeah, it does. Yeah, so execute this. Yeah, long story is that it saves in the order non-fiction spec. Okay, I will. So this is essentially what Mo1 does, and so you can access. I've provided some instructions on how to get it. The next tool is this tool called Test Dyno. Basically, what Test Dyno does is that if you hook it up to your GitHub action, then what it will do is between the builds, you can run tests, and then it will store um, the outcome, as well as if there are failures and points of flakiness. It will use AI to tell you, like, okay, roughly what's the issue. So it does have some analytics, from build to build. You can actually see what's going on. So that is this, and in fact, that's pretty much the end of my talk. But I'm looking ahead now. So currently we have partial vibe coding of pipeline components, and I'm sure at some point, maybe we already have this. We can basically just ask the AI, hey, build a whole CI/CD pipeline for me, and it will be able to do that. But then we still have a number of gaps, right? Like security, observability, things like that. That still is not quite there. But there was a very interesting startup. So I was at a AI startup pitch summit. I think last month, and there was one startup that was working on how to have a single button go to market. So you'll hook up with your marketing and so on and so forth, your DevOps to deploy something out, with all the Q&A, FAQs to your customer support team and marketing teams as well. So more and more automation is coming online. So and if you have ever read this article, the 3-person unicorn startup, is very, very enlightening, because it really shows like where, or at least what the VCs are looking at. So this is the one, the 3-person unicorn startup. They're looking at the possibility that eventually you just need 3 people to build a unicorn. So that is pretty much it. So that's the end of my talk. I hope you have learned something, and I hope this was useful. Any questions so far? Yes.
Okay. Noticed that you used Cursor mainly, and then
Yes.
a little bit of Claude at the end.
Yes.
Was there a particular reason why you used Claude for that piece? And what is your experience in Cursor
Right.
versus Claude?
So this is my own personal experience. I found Cursor to be a lot easier to work with if I was doing a whole lot of interactive development. Claude was great if I wrote the whole spec out and I said, do it. And also Claude is very amusing with its, spluttering and whatever. It's quite cute. But both of them have issues with Python notebooks. I actually have an article about the pain I've had dealing with Python notebooks on both, because in the code form, Python notebooks are basically just one big JSON. So it doesn't really know, like, this cell is here, that cell is here. So sometimes it would build your entire notebook in the reverse sequence, which is a pain in the, and also it does some, the other problem I find is also, I mean, for both, especially for Claude, yes, especially for Claude, is that it tries to solve the problem by adding more code, and then you get more and more and more code, and it reaches a certain point that, okay, enough. Let's start from this point. You know, maybe you revert to a particular Git hash, and then you start from there again, because it's just added too much code, and it just gets very unwieldy. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, you had a question. Yes, the slides are available.
I just asked if the slides are available. Yeah.
Yes, the slides are available. I'll share the.
Do you want to just go back to the QR?
Yeah. Okay. Just give me 30 seconds. I wanted to share how I came up with this slide deck. It's very interesting. So what I did, right, was, so you saw all the Medium articles I had. I just saved them as PDF, and then I had written a proposal for the talk, okay, because I was giving it in a meetup, and I just went to ChatGPT and I said, okay, this is the outline of the talk. These are the articles I want to have the talk, the content of the talk about, and create an outline for me. I want it for 15 slides, including the title slide, blah, blah, please write an outline. And I took this and I dumped it to Gamma, and it generated like probably 70% of this slide deck. So then I just had to tweak that 30% to get it to where it is. So I want to share this because it was like mind-blowing how easy it is. Okay, I'll share the link to this again. Any other questions or anything you guys want to share? Yes.
Yeah, hi. First of all, thank you for the talk. It's really, really interesting subject matter. I see in the outlined example of coding a web app, it's relatively simple, the interactions of these systems.
Yeah.
I found in my use of AI for developing more complex systems and interacting, the complexity of systems often exceeds the context window. Have you run into any of this before, or do you have any? Okay.
I've not had to deal with that, unfortunately, but I think what you want to do is to parcel it out. And that comes back to good software engineering and architecting, right? What you want to do is to break it up into like microservices that are orthogonal, right? So then you don't have this issue. I mean, you might still hit the context window, but I also foresee that with the very, very intense competition between the three providers, the context window will increase. It's just inevitable. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, well, Chris will hang around for a little bit after this anyway, so feel free to network and that type of thing.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Chris, for the talk. Yeah, that last question sounds like you need to join the AI engineers meetup on Saturday mornings. It's a great talk. It's a great round table answering all these type of questions. Just upstairs, 10 a.m. Saturday morning. Next Saturday, that group of people have also got an AI, a Claude coding sort of hackathon. Anthropic hackathon type thing happening. So that's next Saturday, the 20th. If you need details for that, I can put them up onto the event or somewhere later. My name's Shane. I call myself Chiang Mai Ambassador. What I try and do is help people get connected, and I do a lot of events. And tomorrow there's going to be an event for sort of networking. Now I know it may not be your scene, being an introverted coder, but it's a way we can learn how valuable our personal networks are and how we can connect with people we need to connect to. So that's at 4 p.m. right here as well tomorrow. And then another event we've got tonight, if you are into Claude and want to learn a little bit, if you're not sort of guru level, my friend Dave down the back has an event from 6 p.m. tonight here, and it's you can sort of learn a little bit of the lower level Claude coding and see what you can do through his eyes. So yeah, that's it. I'll hang around for a little while as well. And yeah, thanks for coming, and I hope you've got something out of it. Let's just say one more thanks to Chris. See you tomorrow if you're around.
Did you want to just leave that one slide up?
You guys doing it?
Did everyone get the slides?
Good.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Good.
Good, good.